Hey, thanks again for pressing play and welcome once again to another edition of the Suns Jam Session Podcast. John and Matthew Session Podcast. My name is John, managing editor of brightsideofthesun.com. And if you're watching along live or listening later, thank you. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend some time with some Phoenix Suns fans as we talk about all things around the Phoenix Suns, knowing that we are not currently in the semifinal round that is occurring. Matthew, I know that basketball is going on and it's leaving the Suns behind, but it doesn't mean that there isn't plenty to talk about, analyze, and try to see if there's opportunities to make the team better, right?
Yeah, that's our job. We got to figure this thing out heading into next season. We got to make this team better because it's hard watching the halftime show on TNT and just knowing it's not the Suns playing the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals or the Thunder, because it would have been the Thunder. So we got to make this team right, man. I mean, we already picked out our coach, and now we got to move some players around.
They clearly reach out to us for our input. They want to know. They're like, hey, what do the Suns Jam Session guys think? I know they sit down after every single Phoenix Suns game, whether they're coming to you live from the Footprint Center or in their mom's basement or even on vacation. Hell, we've done it from Vegas. Where did we do it from this year? I feel like we did it somewhere that was...
I don't think we did anywhere special or anywhere crazy.
I feel like maybe. Well,
did we walk around one time? I don't remember.
I feel like we walked around one time, but whatever, that we know that nobody's listening to us and nobody cares, and that's okay. We're Suns fans, and this is what you do in the postseason, right? When you're not playing, as you're waiting for the NBA draft to come and the eventual free agency, and then the Olympics that lie ahead. In the meantime, you start to dissect aspects of the team and see if there's any opportunity to make them better. So one thing that we are presenting to you is a series over these next few Mondays. It's Trade Machine Mondays. And that's where we pull out the old trade machine. We dust it off ESPN, although I do the Fanspo trade machine. You do the ESPN trade machine, right?
Well, now I have to do this Fanspo because ESPN was not true. They're both totally different. I guess the Fanspo one is the correct one to use. So
Fanspo.com
last night
is the one because it lets you trade draft picks, and it has all the different restrictions, especially as it pertains to second apron restrictions, which we know that the Phoenix Suns are tasked with, hunkered down with. So I go to the Fanspo and we dust it off. It's like, I haven't seen this thing since about January when we were talking about trades back then. And you start to plug some different things in and do what you can to come up with situations where potentially you can make the team better. I know that all of these trades might not hit everybody's ear right. And I also know that I don't agree with trading some of the players that we're going to discuss. Bradley Beal, you technically can't even trade. So when we do the Bradley Beal trade machine in a couple weeks, we're going to come up with all these scenarios that would be amazing, knowing that they're not really possible. But that's what the offseason is for. It's for fantasy. It's for coming up with some ideas just to have some conversation, because at the end of the day, we're Phoenix Suns fans and we want to have conversations about the Phoenix Suns. As Matthew mentioned, it'd be a lot more fun to be having some conversations about how they're matching up right now against the Denver Nuggets in the semifinals, but we're not at that point. This season didn't end the way that we hoped and dreamed it would, and that's okay. It happens every year for the Phoenix Suns. It's not like we're immune to this, are we?
No, and it's like going out, you're with your mind. I can't finish. I guess I'm just that funny. You're there with your mama girl, and you're just looking across, and you're like, "Oh, I wonder what it'd be like to be with her." And then you do that, and it's the same exact thing. So we'll get these players. We'll try to get these players to come to Phoenix, and then we'll end up in the same conundrum every year at the end of the year. But it's nice to see, or it's nice to think about these guys in a Suns uniform for sure. Just to kind of fantasize about it, like you said.
Yeah, knowing that.
Whatever the hell.
I have no idea. We started off at a
Mama
bar.
girl standing here.
Mom.
LL Cool J. Why you over there looking at me? Mama girl standing here. I used to think he meant like his mom.
His mother.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, why? Don't look at me. My mom's here.
Yeah, why is she looking at me? Am I doing something inappropriate? Well, we're going to kick things off here momentarily. It is Kevin Durant trade machine. And we'll get into everything that means. But before we do that, we do want to give a shout out to somebody who took the time out of their day, rated us 5-star on Apple Podcasts, and then wrote a review. And the name of this person is Beal's #1 hater. So rude.
Wow.
Great pod is the title. It says, Matthew looks nothing like I thought he would. And can we please get some more Bradley Beal slander, please? We'll save that for 3 weeks.
He looks nothing like he thought.
Apparently, it's like when they hear Matthew tell stories about Mama standing over there, they have a different picture in their mind. I don't know what that actually means.
Actually, when people do say that, I wonder what they think I do look like. I want to hear that.
The next thing we want is people, if you don't want to take the time to rate us 5-star on Apple Podcasts and write us a review, which again we'll read right here on the podcast, then take the time to draw what you think Matthew looks like. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, draw a picture of Matthew and email it to the Footprint Center on Jefferson Street, downtown Phoenix, and I will let them know to expect some weird pictures of Matthew. Just know that he always wears a PHX hat, so you can draw that into it. You be the artist, you execute the vision there. So without further ado, if you're hanging out with us, pop them if you got them. An ice cold teeth cat crackling cold brew, and let's play with that trade machine, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a trade machine to talk about. Kevin Durant is the subject of this trade machine. But before we get into that, I do, as always, have a question for Matthew.
Matthew, I've got to ask.
Matthew, I've got to ask, and I assume that we'll go into this in a little bit more depth on Thursday's podcast. But we have a new head coach. Coach Mike Budenholzer, and it's of course the sequence of events is Frank Vogel gets terminated. We do a live emergency podcast, and by we I mean me. That night we go ahead and we do a podcast talking about our regular scheduled program and talk about the Frank Vogel era. And less than 24 hours later, I think maybe a little bit more, 25 and a half. The Suns hire Mike Budenholzer, and we didn't do an emergency podcast. I figured we'd talk about it very briefly at the front end of this pod, knowing that we have all summer to talk about it. But I guess the Matthew I've got to ask question, is this Bud for you? Should I not be drinking Coors Light? Should I be drinking Budweiser?
The old corn-free Budweiser. Budenholzer, it's totally corn-free, right? He might be from Nebraska, so that might not be totally true.
He's from Arizona.
Is he from Arizona?
He's from Hoboken, Arizona.
Okay, I heard that, but I didn't know if he just lived here for a minute because he's
he went to high school.
So I'm like, he can't be from here.
He's a Suns fan. He loves Al McCoy.
Yeah, but I know he tried. I don't know.
I'd like to thank Matthew for doing all his research before.
No, I read that, and they said nothing about being a Suns fan. I said that he has
a whole interview.
Just wanted to play college basketball.
There's a great interview during the 2021 NBA Finals. Obviously, coaching the Milwaukee Bucks, playing the Phoenix Suns. When he talked about growing up, listening to Al McCoy on the radio, Walter Davis, Alvin Adams, all the old Suns, and it's going to be really fun at Media Day to ask him what it means and. That's going to be my question is, who was your favorite Phoenix Sun growing up? Give me your top 3, something along those lines. So
does that mean he's a fan or he just grew up listening?
He grew up a fan.
Okay, but I didn't see the fan part. I did see that he grew up listening and watching or whatever, but
he's 100% grew up a Phoenix Suns fan.
All right. Well, I'll ask him that. Be like, are you a fucking fan of this team or what? Tell me now.
Well, of course, when you come on the Suns Jam Session podcast, you get a drop. I don't know if we'll play this entire drop all season long. But Mike Budenholzer, this Bud's for you.
Play fast, play random, play together, play in great space. Let's go play some basketball. Have some fun.
Budenholzer, 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 Budenholzer. As I walk through this world, nothing can stop Mike Budenholzer. And you are my Budenholzer.
And no one can hurt you. Oh, no.
Oh,
Mike
man, that
baby.
Is crazy. It's like a horror movie, dude. Like when they're going to go slaughter the final person or something. I don't know. Like he's just like creeping in. That's what I picture you killing somebody. So
Wow, I thought it was Dean Chandler's "The Duke of Earl," which is a classic song, and it's just it worked out perfecly. And
yeah,
John
good.
Tran is
I
right
think
in the
it's
chat. He
hilarious.
says, "Need a short in this one, might be copyrighted." So hopefully, I took it. Hey Dot Zero's like, it sounds like the Vogel song. Yeah, a little bit. So
It's a coach thing, yeah, and I do like it. It's hilarious.
it is definitely a coach thing. They get the oldies because they are oldies, and apparently they are Suns fans as well. At least that's what we're hoping. So there you go, Mike Budenholzer. We'll talk more about him on the Thursday episode, really breaking down who he is and what he could bring to this team and how this team is going to benefit moving forward. But it is Trade Machine Mondays, and first up on the Trade Machine, you know who he is.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
Kevin Wayne Durant, one of the greatest players of all time, top 15 easy. If you say top 20, I still think that you're dumb. Is a member of the Phoenix Suns and has been for a year and a half now. And I wrote a piece for Bright Side of the Sun talking about how if you were to trade Kevin Durant, there is no better time to do it relative to his value because he's got 2 years left on a contract, which from an organizational standpoint allows you maximum return on trading him, right? If you have a player on a 1-year deal, they're looking at it as like, okay, I'm only getting 1 year of Kevin Durant. I don't have to attach a couple extra draft picks to this trade. I don't have to throw in that extra player that they really want because they don't have as much leverage. Whereas the Suns would have the leverage if they were interested in trading Kevin Durant. So I guess I'll start with this question. What are tell me your thoughts on just trading Kevin Durant as a blanket statement?
I wouldn't mind it. It's something that like when he was traded here, obviously I was just livid, or I was very, very excited with joy. I was shaken. I couldn't even move. I felt like a ghost was running through me. All my energy was just gone and shot up, left up. I don't know. I was just fucking going nuts, dude. But right now I'm just thinking, I'm like, will I have that same kind of feeling if you were traded? Like, would I actually have any kind of emotion tied to him leaving? Obviously going the opposite way where I would be livid, where I would be upset. I don't think so. I think I would actually be okay with it depending on what the Suns do get back. And the only reason for that is because there's not really that attachment yet. I do love Kevin Durant, what he brought to Phoenix, but we don't really have that attachment yet to him because we haven't had winning in the playoffs. And that's what brings that attachment, like the Suns of old, right? You want that winning in the playoffs, the chemistry and all that. It rubs off on the fans. They all feel that. So it makes sense to kind of have a little bit more feelings towards the guy. So right now, if it makes the team better, I'm okay with it. Of course, you're saying, well, you're going to trade Kevin Durant. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, it didn't really work out unless you want to give it one more season, which I'm fine with that too. But if you have a better idea out there and the Suns are going to get better from it, then I'm okay with that too.
So here's the way that I look at it. Okay. I'm going to put this disclaimer right up front. My personal opinion right now, there's no way you trade Kevin Durant. There's just no way. This always was a 2-year window, in my opinion. When you brought Kevin Durant here and then you brought Bradley Beal this time last year, when Bradley Beal came here, it wasn't about winning last year. It was about learning from last year and winning this year. I think that the way that the team ended up performing throughout the season and obviously not winning one game in the postseason really skewed people's points of view on this team, and they instantly went into blow it up mode. And I'm not in blow it up mode. In fact, I thought Frank Vogel, as I said this before, was I frustrated? Yes. Did I think he needed to go? No. Did I think he would go? I was unsure. Ultimately, Matt Ishbia and James Jones chose accountability, and that came in the form of moving on from Frank Vogel and bringing in Mike Budenholzer, who, again, will be an offensive coach who can maximize the talents and the schemes that are going to put players like Kevin Durant in a great position to succeed. So bringing in Budenholzer gives me another reason why I don't think that trading Kevin Durant is the right idea. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He's one of the greatest scorers of all time. And if we put in the right offensive schemes around him and utilize him properly, and he flourishes and buys into the system, this team could be fantastic. It could be the world beaters that we always thought they were. Now, the other side of this is, And the KD stands out there know that I've been a little ornery over the past few days because the mere suggesting of trading Kevin Durant brings everybody to bring out their pitchforks and go, how dare you do that? Why would you ever thinking about doing it? Like Tequila Blanco says, go ahead, pull that up. But we are talking about trading him. We're talking about trading Kevin Durant, just like we're going to talk about trading Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Nasir Little, Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen. The next 6 weeks, it's Trade Machine Monday here on the Suns Jam Session podcast and on Bright Side of the Sun. Why? Because we're doing our due diligence as people who are Suns fans. We're analyzing every angle because this is the offseason, and we're not just going to sit around and have podcast after podcast after podcast believing that everything is fine and dandy with this team. I want to see the entire picture. And after you take a look at that entire picture, then you can make your determination. And as you'll see when we pull up some of the trades that Matthew and I have generated, you're going to ask yourself that question. And I ask you, if you're watching along live or if you're listening later and you're on Spotify, because I'm going to put polls in the Spotify podcast, what would you grade some of these trades? A, B, C, D, E, F, 7? Throw a number in there. You have to look at everything holistically. You don't have to. You can do whatever the fuck you want, honestly. What I'm choosing to do, what Matthew and I are choosing to do this offseason is go through and have some fun and take a look at what options potentially could exist, because you might walk away and this could be an education piece for all the people who are sitting around going, yeah, Kevin Durant needs to go, man. He just doesn't have it anymore. We're going to go through and look at all these trades, and it might be a fortification moment for you and be like, yeah, I was making a blanket statement without having true knowledge of what my statement was about. And guess what? Trading Kevin Durant is dumb because this is what's on the other side of it. Does this really make the team better? I don't know. That's your subjective point of view on this. So I see the KD stands, and you think, oh, Void is uncool. Somebody called me uncool recently, and I'm like, damn, man, I'm not cool anymore. I'm uncool because I talk.
Ouch.
Like, I thought I was uncool when I hit like 35, but apparently
I've always been uncool, man. I always picture myself being cool, and that's why I stopped listening to rap, because I'm like, I'll never be that way. So then I just started listening to a lot of string stuff. That's it.
String stuff?
String instruments.
Oh, okay. Like the adobo?
Yeah.
People playing the ukulele. So again, I'm putting that blanket statement out there because I want everyone to understand that this isn't a place, and trust me, like, we're going to do the same thing with Devin Booker. And I'll tell you the same thing when it comes time to talk about Devin Booker. Don't fucking trade him. And you're going to see that we could get a king's ransom for Devin Booker right now. And by we, I mean the Phoenix Suns. But that's not what you want. Mm-hmm. You want Kevin Durant and Devin Booker out there flourishing in an offensive system that allows them to maximize what they were able to do. I feel like that didn't happen this past year. I feel like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, we saw it at the end of games. There's a lack of comfortability. There's a piece by Shams Charania and Doug Haller from The Athletic that talked about Kevin Durant not feeling like he was properly used. Now, I don't know if that's an actual statement or if that's coming from people, if that's actually coming from Kevin Durant or if that's coming from the people around him. I mean, and unless Kevin Durant comes and tells us, like, no, man, like, everything's good. It just didn't work out. That's one thing. But if it's truly what's happening, that they didn't feel it was a good system for them to thrive in, then perhaps that's one of the reasons why Frank Vogel's no longer with the team, because they want to put one of the greatest scorers of all time and Devin Booker, one of the greatest Phoenix Sun of all time, in a place to be successful. So I'm throwing that disclaimer out there because I feel like every time you talk about Kevin Durant or Devin Booker, everyone's like, they just read something real quick and they're like, you're an idiot. Like, people will read the name of this podcast. They'll say 606 Trade Machine Kevin Durant. They're like, idiot, John's uncool.
Well, I think it's that for everything, really, that we do talk about, that anybody talks about on Twitter or on YouTube. Everybody is an idiot for doing anything that they want to do on YouTube. But I do think it's because KD is such a magnificent player, probably top 10 of all time, obviously, once he retires. So it's crazy to even think about that. And Anna T does say, does KD want to stay, or does KD want to stay and play for a new coach? ? We don't know that, obviously. I think KD just obviously just wants to play ball. Like, he always just talks about, he just wants to play ball. So what Stephen A did say today, I don't know if you did see how, of course, now
I
they're
heard
talking
about
about
it.
yeah,
Blow up
it's
the big
nothing-
three.
It's just like the Kendrick Perkins thing, and he's talking about, KD is just by himself in the locker room. He kind of stays away in a way. He isn't really involved with the team, with the coach. He just goes out there and plays from the whistle to the final buzzer. That's his game. That's what he does. He doesn't go interact. He doesn't really. That's probably a bunch of horse shit, right? So now we have to hear a lot of that too. And of course, we don't even know if it's true or not. So that's exactly why we're just doing the trade stuff anyways, because it's all really just make believe, like everything else out there that you guys watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's either going to come from Stephen A or, let's not look at this situation with the Phoenix Suns holistically through the eyes of Stephen A. Smith and the national media. Let's look at it through the eyes of being Phoenix Suns fans and see, is it something that we want? Is it something that we need? Is it something?
Yeah.
Is an opportunity to reset what the Suns are in the process of doing? So, disclaimers aside, knowing that, again, in my opinion, you don't trade Kevin Durant. Do you think the Suns would ever consider it?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. There was one thing that Stephen A. did say about bringing Budenholzer here, knowing that they need a coach like him, pay him that amount of money to hold this thing down while pieces are moved, and there's going to be a lot of different pieces coming in. I know Eubanks is coming back, obviously. We're very excited about that. But other pieces will move. Other pieces are probably going to move. So he said big pieces. And if they say, you know what, this didn't work and we don't see this working next year, we just cannot wait another year because that's how Ishbia is, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if any of these trades happen, even the Devin Booker one. It's just, that's the way this franchise is, man. Now, I think if you get rid of Booker, obviously, there would be no fans showing up for any game next year. If you were, I don't even know what you would get back, obviously, but I think with Kevin Durant being moved, it wouldn't be as tragic. It would just be something where it's like, okay, this is where they want to go as a franchise. This is what they think is going to win and compete in next year's playoffs. So I wouldn't blame them either way, really.
It's interesting because at this point, I think there's no chance that the Suns would move on from Kevin Durant or Devin Booker for that matter. And here's the reason why. And you're going to hear this again, obviously, next week when we talk about Devin Booker, is I feel like Matt Ishbia and James Jones are attempting to do something that they may see as revolutionary. The anti-Sam Presti, if you will, where they're saying they're punting completely on draft picks. We've seen teams punt on draft picks to a certain extent. They're actively telling us, yeah, we don't care about the 2031 draft pick on the trade on draft day, which is June 26th, I believe. They're most likely going to trade the 22nd pick. Like, again, as somebody who manages the bright side of the sun, and I'm looking at opportunities for reasons to talk about the Phoenix Suns and going into draft prep and talking about potential prospects that are out there that could help this team, you're kind of stuck between this rock and a hard place because you're like, well, like we could spend time and energy on this, but are they just going to trade the pick on draft day? But it's the same reason we're having this conversation about the trade machine. Well, are they actually going to trade Kevin Durant? Probably not. Probably not, because they are saying you utilize draft picks to get players like Kevin Durant. So what's the point of trading Kevin Durant now? To get draft picks? You're literally going against the methodology that you have set forth, and you're going to try, because again, Matt Ishbia, like he said, I'm going to own this team for 50 years. So that's what he's going to be doing. He's trying this out. He's like, hey, I'm going to punt on the first 10 years of draft picks. I'm going to use every draft pick I can to bring in one of the greatest players of all time, to bring in Bradley Beal, and see if it works. And the experiment, we're going to sit back at the end of every season and give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, and knowing that as Suns fans, it typically never works in our favor. So with all that being said, let's get into some of the specifics. When we talk about Kevin Durant, 35 years old, he has 2 years left on his contract, which totals $105.8 million, right? So, again, that's why I talked about if you are to move forward on a trade for Kevin Durant, it's because he has so much value as a player. He's 35 years old, but he just put up 27.1 points per game, shooting 52.3% from the field, 41.3% from beyond the arc, 85% from the free throw line. He also added 5 assists per game and 6.6 rebounds per game. Kevin Durant's 35 years old, and he had quite possibly one of his best seasons as a player and one of the greatest seasons in the history of this organization. If he had made, 7 more points, 9 more points, something, I think it was 7. If he had made 7 more points on the last day of the season or at any time during the season, he would hold the single season record for points per game in franchise history, surpassing the 27.2 set by Tom Chambers in 1989/90. And that's Kevin Durant at 35. He's crushing it right now. So his trade value is never truly higher. So going in, so what are your thoughts on what we just witnessed from Kevin Durant this last season, Matthew?
Oh, it was a beautiful season. It's very under the radar. I think the third place vote for MVP was well earned, right? He made it through the whole season. We didn't see any injuries from him, man. Barely. He missed a few games here or there, but overall, man, he was the healthiest guy on the team. So to have him play that way last year and going into next year, where you do say it's a 2-year window for this team to win a championship and pull it together and have it make sense in the playoffs, that's the season where you just want to come off of those kind of stats and all that. I love the stats. I do, but I'm obviously not a stats guy, really, obviously, after what I just said about him being traded and all that shit. So I think that the stats were beautiful because we'd never had a guy like Kevin Durant on this team. I remember just after every podcast, man, we'd just be like, man, that guy was just Kevin Durant. What else can you say? All right, next guy. What else can you say about this dude?
Yeah, we called him the run stopper. Every time the Suns were in a position where they were giving up a 10-0 run, Kevin Durant would just come down and make a 15-footer like it was nothing. The butt plug. He stops the runs, right? But at the same time, we're going to go through the experiment of what it would be like to trade Kevin Durant. What assets are out there? Who would we ever in our right minds consider trading Kevin Durant for? So that being said, let's pop into the old trade machine and start with, this is one of yours, Matthew. We are starting with the New York Knickerbockers. Kevin Durant, again, 2 years, averaging $51.1 million for Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. Now, Julius Randle also has 2 years left on his contract, makes about $20 million less per year than Kevin Durant. And then Mitchell Robinson has 2 years left on his contract as well, $14.3 million a year. So I'll ask you about your thoughts on this trade. But again, if you're watching along live and you happen to be on our YouTube channel or watching on Twitter, wherever you're consuming the content, let us know. Is this an A, B, C, D, or F trade? Let us know. And Matthew, tell me about your thought process behind this.
All right, I will. I'm with equipment manager, fallen founder here.
It looks like
yuck, how disgusting, right?
Yeah, a puke emoji.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I would totally puke at this. No, but what's funny is Mitchell Robinson. He had a stellar. He's been playing so good these playoffs, but of course Julius Randle's been missing. The team's played so well without Julius Randle, and you're kind of like, yeah, do you want him back? That's the biggest reason behind it, is because I don't feel like Julius Randle will be back with the Knicks next year. So Kevin Durant never wanted to play for New York, right? He always just said they were uncool. That's why he went to Brooklyn. So going to New York now, they are a cool team with Jalen Brunson there. Of course, Devin Booker's the big name that they want moved there. But if you get Kevin Durant, if you get him with Jalen Brunson and that young core, that's a perfect fit, right? What the Suns would get back, obviously Mitchell Robinson, a guy that I liked in the draft when they drafted DeAndre Ayton. And what my thoughts were after were like, hey, why don't you get Luka and get Mitchell Robinson after that? Can be our center. So he's a good center. He's not great, but him and Julius Randle on the Suns offense, disgusting. Hate this fucking trade.
Wow.
But it's a trade that might happen. Who knows? If there's other pieces moved around.
Well, so a couple people in the chat, Aussie Suns fans says, does this include picks? Creepy Crawley says, how many picks, Lissy? Apparently no picks.
Yeah, no picks. No,
so
I'm not a picks guy, dude. You're not going to see
Mark Brooks gives it an F. John Tran gives it a C.
C's get degrees.
Deborah Coulter gives it multiple Fs. Sir Hamo gives it a D. Chantel Norwood gives it a C. I like what Tequila Blanco says. F that.
You guys don't know ball.
Okay, yeah. It's an interesting thought process, and it's an interesting one to start off the old trade machine with. But I will say I'm not a fan of this trade for a couple different reasons. One, there are no picks attached to it, and two, you do have Yusuf Nurkic still on the team. So if you told me like this is the one trade why Yusuf Nurkic is going on over here, but I definitely think that this makes sense from a mathematical standpoint. But from a return standpoint, I would run myself into the middle of the fucking street and pray that a Chevy Silverado would take me out if the Suns made this trade. To give up Kevin Durant for Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson would be abysmal. Just a horrible trade for the Phoenix Suns. So I respect the fact that you took 6 seconds to put this together, Matthew, and I respectfully decline this.
Hey, I do. I don't mind it. And a lot of these trades too that I threw out there, like, so you said Yusuf Nurkic, he wouldn't be on the team. Obviously, that's a move you would make for like a Marcus Smart or something over with Memphis.
Well, make sure you mention
later
that
on
when you talk about this methodology that you're working. That's
but I didn't know I had to. I didn't know I had to do all the moves, because if they're going to be moving,
what I would say is like, well, we're bringing in Mitchell Robinson, so we will be, in this theorem, in this make believe world, in this 2K world, because that's what it is. We're playing 2K right now. Has anyone ever played 2K? I play it all the time. I asked James Jones that question one time. When you sit there and you consider trades for the Phoenix Suns, do you put them in the trade machine on 2K, make the trade occur, and then sim the season to see how it happens? He laughed and then didn't answer the question. That's what you get from me. Thomas Dennett gives it an F, and TF Timepiece gives it a G. So good for you. I think that means a good for you, Matthew.
I appreciate the one person that gave me a C.
John Tran.
Man.
David Yolovitz, Trade Machine, Oil Flush, 199 in the super chat. We truly appreciate that for hanging out.
Well, great start
here. Great start. All right. I'm up next, and I have one involving the Miami Heat. So this is one where the Suns send Kevin Durant to Miami. In return, we get Jimmy Butler, who has 2 years and $48.7 million left on his contract. We also get Orlando Robinson, 1 year, $2.1 million a year. It makes the math work, but it also fortifies that center position where we have Yusuf Nurkic. We have Drew Eubanks, who says that he's going to be coming back. And it also adds a young, athletic 23-year-old, I believe, 24-year-old center with some size to the lineup. But they also send us their 28th and 29, or their 2028 and their 2029 first-round picks unprotected in this theory that I'm putting out there. Reasoning for this, Kevin Durant on the Miami Heat playing alongside some East Coasters out there. I don't know if this would actually work, just because I don't think that there'd be enough talent there. But I think that, if in this make-believe world we're trading Kevin Durant, we're getting some return, and it puts Jimmy Butler essentially on the same timeline as Kevin Durant. So thoughts on this trade, Matthew?
No, I love it. I sent you this one too. You're like, I already got that one. So Jimmy Butler, this was
actually
I had
picks on mine.
Yeah, but I would do Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant straight up. I really would. I think definitely. I think that would only mean that Beal would be off the team. Beal would be somewhere else. We get picks back for him or something. I don't know. Who knows? But I do think that Jimmy brings a lot to this team. Obviously, he has the leadership and shit and the stuff you want in the playoffs to help you go to the finals. I had a point and I fucking lost it. So go ahead, John.
Let's see. Equipment manager, fallen founder, a B- trade. Mark Brooks gives it a B. Deborah gives it an F as well. An A from Creepy Crawly. BLA gives it an A for ass. Hamo gives it a D only because of the culture clash between Butler and Booker. Fair point. Chantel gives it a B. A C from Aussies. And Thompsonette says, interesting, with some eye emojis. So I got some people thinking, okay, we're warming up those brains a little bit. A C from John Tran. Everything's a C. All right. And I will say, Kevin Durant for Jimmy Butler, straight up, motherfuck no. Again, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You're giving up one of the 15 greatest players of all time for Jimmy Butler, who punts on the regular season and has had a couple good runs in the postseason, but getting older, injured a little bit more. Probably a great personality to have around. Definitely has that competitive nature that the Suns could benefit from. I don't know if I could do that straight up. All right, Matthew, you're up next, and you just have a straight up trade. Straight up. Kevin Durant for Joel Embiid.
Let's go. So this man, of course, Joel, being on the Suns, would not play more than 50 games. We would actually have to nurse him through the year, focus on the playoffs, have him out there. But we got our big guy. If we keep Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, this makes more sense. A guy that can set some picks, roll to the rim, obviously dominate in the paint if he's not hurt. But that's the big thing, if he stays healthy. He's a guy in Philadelphia where I feel like he's kind of worn out his welcome there. You know what I mean? I think they're kind of ready to move on from him, maybe this year, maybe next year, but he seems like a guy that wants to stay in Philadelphia. So it's up to really the fan base there in Philadelphia, who they like, who they want to get rid of. Like Ben Simmons, got to get rid of that guy. But Joel, I feel like, is up next. I don't think he's going to win a title there in Philadelphia. I've always wanted him, of course, to be on the Suns, but this would be just, if you're going to keep Booker and Beal, you got to get that big man in the middle, man. And he would be of what is the average, like 28 and 14 guy down there and just dishing the ball off the corner threes. So I think it's perfect.
Former MVP winner Joel Embiid did unfortunately have an injury-plagued season, but was having MVP-type numbers prior to being injured. He ended this season 39 total games played, 34.7 points per game, 11 total rebounds. He also shot 38% from beyond the arc on 3.6 attempts. So definitely an offensive juggernaut. I'm not with this trade. I'm not with this trade. And I get what you're saying. And this is definitely one of those things when it comes to Philadelphia. They've really had it with Joel Embiid, it appears. He's consistently injured, and the injuries he has are things that, especially given his place in the NBA and how big he is as a human being, just a pure human being standpoint, he is most likely to get injured again and again. And it's going to be reoccurring things. It's a lot of lower leg stuff. And with Tyrese Maxey being young and explosive, they want to kind of build from there. Now, granted, this Joel Embiid contract that we're talking about is 3 years at $51.4 million a year. That's the big thing for me. That's why I don't like it. Is it's 3 years. You're locked into it essentially with somebody who has a history of being hurt. And also, I don't know how it necessarily makes Devin Booker and Bradley Beal both better from an output standpoint.
Suck it in, dude. Suck in the defense, suck them out. Like, Bradley Beal likes to get to the rim, right? But the rim is always just so crowded down there. Like, no one's ever really sucked out of it. So, I mean, like you said, he can play from the perimeter. So, I don't know. I just feel like there'd be a lot more spacing for those two.
Well, I'll tell you, you get an A++ from Dagoberto Ortiz. F yeah from Pablo. Beat LA says, let's go. I like it. An A+ from Fallen Founder. An A- from Mark Brooks. Make that trade. AAA.
AAA.
Time filler trade suggestion. No chance in hell this will happen. Thanks. None of this is going to happen, nor should it. A- from Chantel. Yes, I'm Ron Burgundy. So, you're getting a lot of love. Juan Carlos, good seeing you in there. Go for it. I don't know if I could
go for it.
Go for it.
Can you imagine though if that was a trade? It's like, okay, we got Kevin Durant here, and now we got Joel Embiid. It's like all these guys that we could just never imagine being on the Suns in a Suns uniform, and they're just playing for the Suns now.
It's
crazy.
It's a different world. I mean, the fact that we've had Chris Paul and Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant all on this team, whereas if you told me 5 years ago all those guys make their way through Phoenix, I'm like, fucking, what are you smoking, bro? Can I get some? Harry Pat Phoenix gives it a B. So you're getting a lot of love on this one. John Tran gives an A, and he said that he was going to give everything D for disaster from TF Time Phase. So, okay, Matthew's second one's getting some love. All right, let's go to my next one, and this is a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, now Brandon Ingram is somebody who's been rumored to be on the trading block. This is one where I'm going, you know what? Let's go the other way. Okay, what are the two deficiencies that we feel the Suns have had? It's point guard play or lack thereof. This is an invalid trade, dude. Fred VanVleet doesn't fucking play there. Okay.
Wait, what?
He plays in Houston. Just pretend that was Brandon Ingram. All right, let's go into your next trade. Good thing I did 4 instead of 3. All right.
Okay, good.
You want me to go?
I want to see the Ingram one.
Well, I don't have the Ingram one up.
Well, I can just do this one really quick because it's just a ding dong one really quick. So I think if you want,
hold on, Harry Fat Penis. Before anybody, if you're listening, somebody's saying, "What the fuck is this?" So go on.
Wait, to mine or to yours?
To yours.
Oh, to mine? Oh, well, I mean, if you're just going to want death, man. Keegan Murray, he's a guy that might surprise a lot of you. If you haven't watched a lot of the Kings games, he's probably one of the bigger surprises on that team. He has a big future, so you get a little bit younger there. Obviously, Kevin Huerter that would come over, he wouldn't be a starter. He would be a guy coming off the bench. You would still have Grayson Allen playing there as a starting 3, whatever he plays right now. Harrison Barnes, the guy that we've always wanted here in Phoenix, right? Some great shooting, but this is basically just a trade for the Sacramento Kings from the Sacramento Kings that would just put us in a better situation with better depth. I just think it would make us have a really solid 8-man rotation, getting rid of Kevin Durant for 3 pretty solid dudes. And Kevin Durant going to Sacramento side of it. Sacramento, of course, they can't get over the hump. So like, oh, let's bring Kevin Durant here and lift us up over that hump, just like the Suns try to do.
And they can raise us up, right? On the last day or something.
I love the comments, dude.
Bring up the comments.
Terrible, dude. You
gotta read your own comments.
All right, by Thomas Annette. WTF, dude. Sir Hamill. Oh, even you? What the hell? What? We got Thomas Annette. Make it so number 1. I don't know what that means. Mark Brooks. F. David Jolowitz says, I want to play Matthew in fantasy. Yeah, you do. Well, I went to the fantasy football championship last year. F that from Tequila. Creepy Crawly John is so uncool. Sir Hamill says no. F. Equipment founder C-. John Tran. This is a C. Back to a C. C. Oh man, a lot of D minuses. Matthew is a Matthew is on 1. Okay, that's nice from Chantel Norwood. I like that.
Yeah,
Thompsonette did give me an F too. I think he had like 3 comments in there.
There's no fucking way they'd move on from Keegan Murray. There's no way. That is their future. That's their future, like Kevin Durant guy. Like if you'd put Davion Mitchell in here.
Well, that's like our Mikal Bridges. That's like our Mikal Bridges. So it'd be like the Sacramento Kings. Like, can you imagine if we got Kevin Durant here? Oh my God.
If
like,
there's any organization that is, I was gonna say dumb enough to make this trade, but we'd be the dumb ones if we were to make this trade. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't mind this because I think Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray are some
Kevin
solid
Huerter,
players. Man.
No defense. No defense
just
from Huerter.
Some guy at the bench.
Harrison Barnes, no defense. Just old guy who shoots.
A lot of don't look at their last year's stats. Look at this. Look at the season before that season.
Look at their life. Look at their again. 2 years ago,
Harrison Barnes. Man.
They were like 2 years ago. The Kings were the Pacers, where they just blew people out of the water with their offense, but couldn't play any fucking defense.
Yeah, no, I like these guys.
Beat LA. D for drug test Matthew for coming up with this. There you go. I think that's appropriate. All right. Well, let's go to my next slide. God, where's my NOP one? Hold on. I have one. I'm gonna do this real quick, and I'm gonna pull it up because I do have one somewhere on here. NOP. There it is. Did I not add this to the slide? Let's load this real quick.
Yeah, because I like this one. This is my favorite one.
Got down, sat on the bench. It's the wrong one again. Hold on. I have it here saved somewhere. And I will raise you up. Oh, I know.
How about that Dallas OKC game, huh?
Yeah.
Dallas
so tell me
80-72.
How much time is left?
7 minutes and 48 seconds.
Okay, so it's a little ball game. So thank you to everybody who's actually like watching, because
we're probably like on their lap while they're watching it. We're like right in their face, or just on the side while they're eating a fucking burrito. Just like,
all right, here it is. So I got this. I got to save the image. I'm pulling it off of my Twitter account, Jamster. So just give me a second here. I must have saved over it by accident. But essentially, the save image as it's going to have a little bit of a different format.
What?
I hope that you guys.
I already did my 3, huh? My 3 are done.
Did you do 3?
Yeah, I did do 3, man. This is your 3rd, right?
This is my 2nd.
Oh, this is your 2nd, and then you're gonna do your 3rd.
Yeah, I had to rush.
Yeah, well, good thing I got my 3rd out of the way, because a lot of people didn't like that for some reason.
Well, so here's my 2nd one, and this one is the Suns making a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans, because Brandon Ingram is somebody who is rumored to be on the trading block. He's got 1 year, $36 million left on his contract, and because of that, they're potentially looking to move on from him. Zion and him haven't had a great the chemistry and the rapport just hasn't been as productive as I think that they had hoped. So you trade Kevin Durant to the New Orleans Pelicans. In return, you receive Brandon Ingram. You get Larry Nance Jr., who's also on a 1 year deal, and you get a 1st-round pick, and heck, you might even get a 2nd first-round pick out of this deal. So the thought process behind this is they want somebody who has Kevin Durant's playmaking ability, somebody who can score at will, and that's what Kevin Durant brings to your team. The Suns look at it as like, okay, we get a year with Larry Nance Jr., who is a fantastic backup to Yusuf Nurkic and can even start in his stead. Brandon Ingram, who takes over that spot as Kevin Durant's absence, and you also get a 1st-round pick. But you also have both those guys on 1 year deals. So if it's not working out, either trade him at the trade deadline and do a mini blow up and try to gain some more assets, or at the end of the season, you freed up what was Kevin Durant's contract, takes you out of the second apron, opens up options again, and you continue to build around Devin Booker. So that's the thought process behind this. Matthew, what are your thoughts?
No, I love this. I really do. And Brandon Ingram, I've been trying to get him on the Suns for a long time now. I think the last 4 years. So he's still a guy that's in his prime. That would definitely help currently. Larry Nance, we'll remember him from all those horrible, hard games that we played against them the previous year in the playoffs. But obviously, I think that Larry Nance is a good role player to have. A big guy in the first round pick. Obviously, throw that in, and you got yourself a little bit of a future there. But I think with the 1 year contract is really what's really telling, dude, with this whole thing. I really think it's a really solid.
What was that?
I didn't know where I was going with that, but I do like this trade, man.
Wow, that's all you had to do was just say that. Like, that's all I had to say. You what the fuck? Sorry, my whole family's not looking at me. Sir Hamo gives this a B+. I get a C from Creepy Crawly. We have a B from Dagoberto Ortiz. You all right, man? You eat some gummies or some shit?
I don't know, dude. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think it's just like tired or something. I don't know what's wrong.
I'm just saying B from Chantel. We got a B from Mark Brooks. A B from Aussie Suns fan says Ingram is a younger version of KD, not quite as good. No shit. And Nance is a backup C and first rounder is worth considering. AAA from Harry. Pat.
Too long responses.
B+. Great. A C. What have you. So again, there you go. There you go. And some people are saying, yeah, Dyson Daniels or Herbert Jones. This is I don't think that they would do it. They're going to build around those guys. That's their game plan. So, all right, let's bring this back up and let's go ahead and click this. Oh, I got to get rid of the overlay. Produce much.
Ooh, look at this sexy one.
Okay, so now we have one with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, obviously, there's a lot of talk going on in Atlanta right now. Is Trae Young going to be there next year? They just got the number 1 overall pick. Him and DeJounte Murray just haven't worked out the way that they had hoped, and I think that DeJounte Murray and Trae Young had hoped. Again, they're kind of in the boat that's almost the anti-Suns, where they have 2 point guards, and we have 2 shooting guards. So they've got 2 guys who want to kind of facilitate, and we have no one who wants to facilitate and is better off ball and coming off screens, and that's how you maximize their effectiveness. So in this trade, you're sending Kevin Durant to the Atlanta Hawks to play with Trae Young. In return, you're getting DeJounte Murray, who has 3 years left on his contract at $51.4 million. DeAndre Hunter, just so you know, all those numbers are wrong. I must have been tired because DeAndre Hunter is not getting paid 3 years, $51 million. But just know that DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, and a first-round pick is what the Suns would get in return for Kevin Durant. Thoughts on this, Matthew?
No, I do like it. I really do. I think that DeJounte I think that's who the Hawks kind of want to lean towards a keep. I think they like him more than Trae Young. Obviously, Trae Young has been rumored to be headed to San Antonio. Of course, he's going to be playing.
Or the Lakers.
Or the Lakers, yeah. So he's the guy on the move. But I do like DeJounte. I was actually talking about him to a guy at work today. And would I rather have him or Trae Young? And honestly, I like DeJounte. I really do. I've always liked Trae Young, but they're kind of neck to neck for me. But if you're going to get anybody back in these trades, I think this is the second guy I would want out of all of them. Of course, I'm the big Joel guy, and this is the guy, DeJounte Murray, that I would want right behind him.
I think it would really help the Suns' playmaking ability. I still think the Suns would have an issue because you'd have DeJounte Murray, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And so it's just very, very, very guard heavy. And I don't know if that's necessarily how you want to operate your offense. So again, another reason why trading Kevin Durant makes zero fucking sense. But we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at some of these grades. John Tran gives us a C, a D- from Fallen Founder, a C from Hey.0, B from Aussie Suns fans, and he says no further comment to upset Matthew. A B from Creepy Crawly, a P from Pablo, a B from Pablo, not a P from Pablo. I'll take this from Hey.0. And again, Juan Carlos says, what about the money of DeAndre Hunter? I just said all these numbers are wrong. So, John Tran, can we get the number 1 pick? Do we want the number 1 pick? I don't want the number 1 pick. Not this year. Fair.
It's all right. I don't even know who's number one. I know who I want the Suns to get. I don't even know who's going to go number one overall.
Yeah, it's that kid from Perth who's actually a Frenchman. All right, and the last trade, this is what I had earlier, but I had all the wrong names on it. You have Fred VanVleet, Steven Adams, and 3 first-round picks coming over from the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are a team that's on the rise relative to their youth movement, but they need that veteran presence. They need somebody who can score with ease to put alongside the young Jalen Green. And what do you have? You have Fred VanVleet coming over for 2 years, $42.8 million a year. Gives the Suns, again, some of that playmaking ability. Steven Adams coming off of a year-long injury, but only 1 year left on his contract to fortify the center depth. And the 3 first-rounders in coming over from Houston. So what are your thoughts on this, Matthew?
So these comments have me cracking up, dude. And I'm not high. I think it's because I work at a collision center. We actually went to a shop today, and they put us in the paint room. And it was, oh my God, the fumes, man. So I might be a little high.
So you are high.
Maybe just a little bit from that. So Fred VanVleet, I think, is a perfect fit. I think I'm a big fan of even the Suns picking up Kyle Lowry and unrestricted free agency. I would like that. So Fred VanVleet would obviously be a step up above that. This would make our team better. If you're going to get Steven Adams back, obviously, I think you're thinking that, of course, Nurkic will be gone, and then you can get a guy like in the draft that's like a more athletic center or something to play.
Well, in this scenario,
I think run your offense.
I still think Nurk is here in this scenario.
Okay.
You still have Nurk, and you also have Steven Adams. Both are somewhat injury prone. So what you're doing is you're doubling down on we want a big, girthy son of a bitch playing the 5, and if they're both healthy, then it's Nurkic with Steven Adams knowing that he's coming off a year-long injury, easing himself back into it, coming in off the bench, Drew Eubanks being the 3rd string. Or if one of them is injured, the other guy kind of comes in. So I think you hold on to Nurk in this scenario and utilize Steven Adams as a safety net for 1 season, knowing that his deal is up at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I don't mind having Steven Adams. I really don't. I'm a big fan of him. But I think those first-round picks, dude, they're pretty sexy. And speaking of sexy, you know the way that that our owner is, and Matt Ishbia, this is probably the most least sexy trade, right? That would come through and be like, all right, here comes Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams. All right, let's get the chairs out. Let's get the podium up. You know, let's do
make the signs and put them out front of the Footprint Center.
I feel like that's all he likes to do as a Suns owner is just to have those conferences, because I think we've had like 10 of them since he's been here. He's announcing random shit.
Matt Ishbia likes to host a conference. I'll tell you that. He'd be like, all right, the All-Star game's coming here. All right. We fired our coach. All right. We hired our coach. All right. We've decided to go from Pepsi to Coca-Cola products. All right. We're renaming a street that's 7 blocks away. We're going to name it after, I was trying to think of some, Pat Burke. So some okay ones from here. An A from Sir Hamo. We got a C for catastrophic from Harry Pat Phoenix. A-, A for oh hell no. Nah.
Really? There's a lot more A's and B's than I thought.
I smell a C, B+, B+, B+. So those are some of the trades that we came up with. Taking a look at good old Twitter, seeing how some of our loyal Jamsters have responded. We put this out on Twitter. If you don't follow us there, please do so. At Suns Jam is where you can see all of our interesting tweets. And we put it out there. We go, hey, if you have any ideas, let's hear them. Joey from Charlotte said, Giddey, Dort, 2 firsts. That would not work. That would not work.
Hell yeah. I know I want it, but that would be fucking awesome.
For Kevin Durant? You have been hanging around the fucking paint too much.
So
today,
the thing is with Giddey, like I'm always a big fan. He's always that kind of guy where
he's been ass in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying.
Horrible.
Like, he goes hot and cold. Like he'll be like, "Oh my God, Josh Giddey, did you see him for the last 2 weeks? He's been fucking balling." And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh," he'll drop off and be like, "He's the worst fucking player ever. You can't play him in the playoffs." But I think if he was actually the legit, like real ball handler and he's not playing with SGA, he might be a guy you can rely on as a ball handler. And of course, you want Lou Dort. It'd be fucking amazing,
dude. Trade Nurkic for him or something. Like you're not trading Kevin Durant for Lou Dort and fucking Giddey and 2 first-round picks. The math doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but Giddey, he's not unrestricted free agent, right?
No, I'm sure he's under contract. I don't have it. Let me pull it.
Okay.
Fan spell.
I just thought there was an easier way to get him. I think it's just because he's asked in the playoffs. You could probably just trade nothing for him, but I wouldn't mind getting him, man.
Yeah, Josh Giddey, 1 year, 8.3 next year.
Okay.
Lou Dort is 3 years, 16.3. So they total about 27 million. That's like half of Durant's contract.
Jeez.
It's just
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Joe from Charlotte, but it's like it's not going to happen.
I like it,
Dan at Generic Suns fans says KD to Atlanta for Murray, Johnson, and Okongwu. I try to get Griffin too, if possible. ATL gets their star to pair with Trey and can do it and can still draft Sarr, and Sarr, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick, Alexander Sarr, with Capella. We get our point guard and point of attack defender. We get athleticism and defense. We get younger and extend our window. That's a very well thought out trade. What do you think of that, Matthew?
No, I do like it. And he did bring up Capella too. Like that's a guy, if you can get back, if you're trying to get Murray or Trae Young, I know you can't. And you can't include another player from the Suns, right?
They're saying Atlanta keeps Capella.
Yeah, I know. I like Capella a lot. So if you're going to replace Nurkic with another old center, Capella's a name, obviously. But I do like what he threw out there for sure. I just think it'd probably be impossible.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. John Tran says for Embiid straight up. There you go. So you did
nice.
that one.
Love it, John Tran.
You guys think alike. You guys should hang out together on the weekends and go down to Centennial Park.
I might not talk to you, though.
I would trade KD to get back our organic, good vibes built through the draft Suns team. They might not have won a championship, but it was more fun than watching this Frankenstein, no chemistry, artificial feeling group. That's from Denis Dews on Twitter.
That's always an interesting take still.
It is.
I miss Mikal and Cam, but you just know it wasn't enough, obviously. So we just gotta leave it at that, man.
Yeah, when you traded, and we talked about this when it happened.
You can't have it come back. It's weird.
One, it's weird, but two, when we traded Kevin Durant for Mikal and Cam, we got better. We didn't get better in the short term because we sacrificed so much of our bench depth at the same time because Jay Crowder was gone as well. But we knew in the long run, like from a talent standpoint, you got better. Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges have gone on to Brooklyn, and that team didn't make the playoffs. So I'm not saying, and they weren't the cornerstones of this franchise, but at the same time, we received most likely the best versions of them while they were here. And I'll leave it at that. So after going through all these different trade scenarios, and thank you to everybody who submitted their trade scenarios and have stayed with us during this off-season podcast, I think what you learn in going through these scenarios is everything can be scrutinized. And I just don't know. Again, I just don't think it makes sense to trade Kevin Durant at this time. If this is next season and it's the off season and we get bounced in the first round again, we're going to have a much different conversation. That's not just about Kevin Durant. That's about the entire organization. Is what Matt Ishbia is attempting to accomplish actually working? Right? So everything's on the table at that standpoint because you want to sit there and try to change your direction. And if it's drastic, it's drastic. But we hope we're not going to be at that point. Having Kevin Durant on this team next season gives us the best opportunity to win. It's what we have to do on the fringes that is going to truly matter and make this team better. And that's what we'll be doing over these next 6 Mondays, 5 more to go on Trade Machine Mondays, is we are going to explore the different options that exist for some of the fringe players. So who should we do next week? Should we do Devin Booker next week or should we?
You got to go. You got to go best to worst, right? I think obviously KD Booker, 1A, 1B. But
all right, we'll be doing Devin Booker Trade Machine next Monday. This upcoming Thursday, we will have another podcast, 8 p.m. Arizona time. Might have a special guest on that one. Still working some things out, but talking about the Phoenix Suns and the who's and what's and we might be talking some unrestricted free agent targets. We still have a bunch of time, but I know that Matthew and we've put together some unrestricted free agent targets, knowing that, again, being a second open team, this team has a limited amount of options at their disposal. So looking at it through that lens and then trying to understand what the vision is and thinking what is the best way when we talk about maximizing the effectiveness of Kevin Durant, what does that look like from a fringe standpoint? Last season, we saw that the young players like Keita Bates-Diop and Chimezie Metu, Jordan Goodwin, and the other guy who got traded, they all didn't have the consistent confidence around such great talent to be effective. They were too busy focusing on not making the right decision and focusing on not making the wrong decision. So that being said, when we look at unrestricted free agents, we got to look at it through that lens. So plenty more to come all offseason long right here from the Suns Jam Session podcast. Again, my name is John Voigt. I'm managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun. Head over to brightsideofthesun.com to read all of not only mine, but my writing staff's thoughts and opinions on the Suns and this offseason's dealings. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow this show at Suns Jam, at Suns Jam. The Suns Jam Session podcast at Suns Jam on Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Matthew, where can they follow you?
At Matthew Lucy.
And if Matthew's been hanging around some paint all day, you might be able to follow him just randomly through the street because he's just looking up, staring right to the sun like a solar eclipse is coming. So, but appreciate everybody who takes the time out of their day to hang out with us, and everyone who's commenting in the chat and giving us your grades on some of our trades. I think it's summation, man. Trade Nasir Little. Don't trade.
I was I'm glad I won the trade debate though with the Joel Embiid thing, but
you really did, because I did not think that was a good one.
I got the most A's.
You got the most A's
because it's the biggest name. It's the biggest name. That's why. That's
and
what
the biggest and the biggest dude.
Yeah, 7-3.
Oh, well.
All right, I'm gonna go home. Love your family.
Do it.
Call Suns Jam Session, post-game drill, John and Matthew, podcast skill, analyzing games with comedic flair since 2019, they've been right here. Suns Jam Session, post-game pod, talking Suns ball with the Jamster squad, from the Valley of the Sun, spreading the word, original podcast, haven't you heard? Subreddit stick out behind enemy lines, Batman, Valley, Lissy, and Curry combined, reporting live, with jokes to the brain, adding flavor to the podcast game. Suns Jam Session, post-game pod, talking Suns ball with the Jamster squad, from the Valley of the Sun, spreading the word, original podcast, haven't you heard? Subreddit stake out behind enemy lines, Batman, Valley, Lissy, and Kermit combined, reporting live, with jokes to the brain, adding flavor to the podcast game. Suns Jam Session, post-game pod, talking Suns ball with the Jamster squad, from the Valley of the Sun, spreading the word, original podcast, haven't you heard?
Die-hard fans are just passing through, Suns Jam Session's got some for you. Lick the eyes to the feet, bitter bite, with the Suns through the day and the night.
After every game, don't miss the beat. Suns Jam Session is gonna bring the heat. John and Matthew leading the way in the Suns podcast realm. Suns Jam Session, post-game pod, talking Suns ball